Moving right along with our wonderful board meeting. At least I finally figured out how to do these meetings without wanting to blow my brains out. You do one item at a time. That way you don't feel like committing suicide listening to this ridiculous crap coming out of their mouths. All right, what's next?
To see results of TriMet's Attitudes and Awareness Survey. This is the first.
The TriMet Attitudes and Awareness. Oh, here it is. It's right here. Let's see what it says. TriMet Attitudes. These are always good. A majority think that Portland is on the wrong track. Well, I would imagine that should be self-evident. Okay. Majorities rate bus and Max as reliable. Oh my God. That just goes to show you, folks, how completely misinformed the public actually is. Approval of the job TriMet is doing, the buses remain high. Yeah, sure. Yeah, right. This is so funny. Oh, God. Self-reported rates of ridership in the last 20 are not significantly different from 2000. What are you talking about? Ridership is down 50%. Oh my God, this is going to be funny. On balance, residents expect to ride more in the next 6 months, plus 17%, although 17% are unsure. Better security is the top improvement. Okay, get some people on these buses and trains. Why don't you have people stationed at the major transit centers, Beaver and 82nd, Gateway, Rose Quarter. I don't know. The majority of people are planning to ride less or not ride at all. Yes, well, it's it is a shit show, folks. I don't know. The chances of you actually getting hurt riding the system, okay? Of you actually being attacked by some other rider are very low, okay? This is not being reported in the media. I hear yes, there are these incidents where riders are attacking riders, but you're going to see this everywhere in public now. It's not the transit system. It's this disintegration of the social fabric brought on by a elite who are destroying our country by stealing all the wealth for themselves, and they're leaving us in this shit show that we hear on the TriMet scanner. Perception of safety are down. Yeah, no kidding. 83%. Yeah, sure they do. These DHM are laughable, okay? I mean, this right here, majorities, and we know that it's not reliable at all. So once again, I don't know where they're getting this information, but I don't know if it's manipulated, but I mean, we know that it's not reliable. We know that it's a shit show. So we can see right in front of our face here a blatant, bull-faced lie. Now, either the majorities are completely deluded, which would happen. I mean, people have all these conceptions about things that are just plain wrong. Just look at our politics. People think things that are just completely, for a person who's able to think clearly, they're psychos. If they think that the Democrats are going to save them or the Republicans are going to save them, they're idiots, okay? They're not paying attention. They have preconceived notions. But I mean, this is ridiculous. It's not reliable. Yeah, it has no credibility at all. Let's hear how they justify this.
Time that we've had the survey conducted in 4 years. But before we move into the briefings, let's take a short break. Come back in 10 minutes. Geez. Let's say come back at
Why did you start it, you stupid? Come on. Move it up. Why don't you just take the break? Come on, hurry up.
And are sharing some of the things that we're working on. So I'm excited to share those with you this morning. And I just really want to say I'm very thankful to work with Dr. Lewis. She has a very unique perspective in this space and just has been a tremendous partner to work with. And it does sound like I owe her a bunch of swag. So Dr. Lewis, be prepared to be inundated with TriMet swag. It's coming your way. So I will say this morning as we get started, our agency, as well as the entire transit community, has been struggling with some difficult increases in security incidents and crime, as well as increasing drug use. There's some common themes that we check in with our partners on. We have a unique kind of approach, and I think it's the right approach here at TriMet that I'm going to share with you about how we're increasing presence on the system. And as Director Gonzalez shared earlier, increasing presence with the right tools. And it does require different aspects.
Increasing presence with the right tools. What a bunch of nonsense. All you need is people on the fucking system, man. You're paying $11 million a year for police. Why aren't they riding the system?
Presence on the system. So we'll get into that in a little bit. If we could go to the next slide, please. Just a brief agenda overview for you. You can see we're going to be talking about both sides of the house that report in through me, which is the safety and security sides of the house. We'll start with safety, and I'm going to give you guys some updates and highlights and some things we're working on. And then we'll move into that security space and talk about reimagining public safety, different presence on the system, and some other items I think will be of interest as we kind of let you guys know what we're up to. Next slide, please.
Oh my God!
So you can see our organizational chart here. This is the
look at this bureaucracy. So no wonder nothing is done. So this guy Andrew Wilson, he's up here, see, and look at all the people underneath him. What the hell?
Board chart for safety, security, and environmental services, which I'll report up through my role. So we have a large team. We're going to start with the safety team, which is that portion on the right. So if we could go to the next slide, please.
A bunch of baloney.
Safety. We're going to be talking about that first. If we could go to the next slide, and I'll show you that organizational chart for safety and environmental services. So that's what we're going to be focused on now.
That's a whole nother chart.
And we can go down to the next slide, which I'm going to talk to you guys about, which is the agency safety plan update. You may recall last year in December timeframe, you saw our annual update to the agency safety plan. We're working on that. We've actually sent this year's revision by the deadline of June 30th down to our state safety oversight partner, which is ODOT. They have time to review that, and they will get it back to us, and then we will send it your way for adoption by the board. Just to kind of point out, this is our overarching safety document. Describes the various systems we use to manage our safety efforts here at TriMet. So if you haven't taken a look at it, give it a read. I think it's a very good document, which really kind of lays out how we're set up and how we accomplish safety here at TriMet.
How do they accomplish safety? I don't know, because we don't hear much about, there's no evidence of safety over on the bus side. At least I don't hear it. At least not through the scanner.
And just as an aside, in our safety plan, our accountable executive is Mr. Sam Sue, and the chief safety officer is myself. So you should see that document coming your way by December. And we can go to the next slide, please. One of the things I wanted to share with you that is exciting on the safety side this year is we're implementing.
Look at this. More goddamn fucking committees and meetings. This just shit never ends with these people. They're going to have another goddamn committee.
The safety management system process, which is actually an FTA standard for transit agencies now. Safety management systems is a process that's used to ensure safety risks and identified hazards are managed throughout the district. These things could be in elements like safety committees, hazard identification and assessment, inspections, auditing safety policies, etc. Those are elements that are used to produce a true safety culture. And you can see the safety pillars there in that little graphic are safety risk management, or safety management policies, safety risk management, safety assurance, and safety promotion. If you want more detail on that, happy to provide it. But just
this all bureaucracy that doesn't actually have any effect on anything really happening.
Just for your awareness, we are instituting SMS here at this agency for the FDA mandate. And we're establishing a leadership team.
A leadership team is being established. A leadership team.
We've actually already established it, which is made up of various leaders at our agency to help.
Various leaders. They're leaders. They lead you because they're leaders.
Implement SMS into 2023. Just for a brief overview of SMS.
They're leading you off the fucking cliff is what these leaders are doing.
You might recall back in the 80s and 90s, we had a lot of airline crashes with a lot more frequency than we have now. FAA actually developed SMS to deal with some of that, and with tremendous success over a couple decades. And so now SMS is being cascaded down to transit operators like TriMet. So we're excited to bring this on board. And we're working in partnership with our state safety oversight members at ODOT to do that. So more on that to come. Next slide, please. One more safety element I wanted to let you guys know about is that we've actually...
look at this. Look at this. You know, they've been talking about this since Darla Sturdy. Do you know how long they've been talking about this stuff? Like 20 fucking years. All right? And nothing changes.
Applied for and received a safety research demonstration grant with the FTA to better understand.
The federal government has all kinds of money for all kinds of crap that doesn't help anybody. Here's another example here. Oh, federal share, $800,000, and then TriMet, which should be funding operations, is going to throw in the $200,000 because, you know, it's a crime syndicate. They're not interested in serving the public. They're interested in serving themselves.
And how we can upgrade our grade crossings for pedestrians. This is
if they had, I know they've been studying this for 20 years, so I know this is a fraudulent thing because I've been paying attention for 20 years here, and nothing has changed. So it just goes on.
On the light rail side, this is a really innovative approach that we had put forward, and obviously we're granted related to using video analytics software to identify human behaviors at area pedestrian.
It's New World Order shit. They're going to have video analytics. I see. This is a World Economic Forum shit. They're going to have video analytic equipment. Oh, yeah, it's going to help us. Yeah.
Grade crossings. And this grant has allowed us to really understand what mitigations we have out on the system that are working and really prioritize where we're actually upgrading our pedestrian grade crossings. I say that because most of the time agencies, what they do is they upgrade the oldest to the newest on a schedule.
Although I will mention that there hasn't been a pedestrian hit by a MAX train in a while. Usually that happens fairly often, but there's been some small type incidents where somebody was drunk and fell into the train. I'm talking about, getting hit by a train at a crosswalk because a pedestrian isn't paying attention. And, the kill 'em all crowd always jumps on the pedestrians at fault. They're not paying attention. Half of America thinks everything is our fault. And don't believe that you can mitigate these risks by careful planning.
Like that. This allows us to actually take a look at which ones need upgrade based on the mitigations available and the human behaviors that are occurring on those sites. So it's very innovative. The FTA is very excited about it, and we'll be working through that over the next several years and providing updates to folks like the Crash Committee, et cetera, on this work. So just wanted you guys to be aware of that and appreciate that. So we'll move on to the next slide. I'm going to be moving now into the security side of the house, which I've got an org chart just after this slide, which will kind of show you kind of where we're at from a security standpoint. So we could go to the next slide, please. So this is the security setup for TriNet. And I bring this up because, and I alluded to this before, we've been facing a lot of significant challenges.
Let's take a look at this for a minute. Here's this guy, Craig McDonald, Director, Safety and Environmental Service. Here's a vacant position. Manager, Regulatory Compliance and Safety. John Gilmore, Manager, Safety Construction and Risk Management. Tracy Sands, Manager, Safety Systems, Safety Management. Michael Kaczynski, Manager, Environmental Service. Bob Tabb, Coordinator, Senior Safety Systems. Brock Bethel, Coordinator, Senior Safety Systems. Deb Bly, Coordinator, Senior Safety. What are they all fucking doing, man? What are all those fucking people doing? Look at all these people that are supposedly involved with safety. What exactly do they do? Because we know that they know there's no actual safety. So what the hell are you doing over there?
Over the last several years, related to declining numbers of law enforcement personnel, increased drug use, behavioral health issues, and an overall decline in ridership. And thankfully, we were while this was going on, we were engaged in a really robust reimagining process, which I think has really put us ahead in terms of how we can address some of these issues. And I'll talk about that a little bit later in the presentation. But before we discuss some of the specific ways we've responded to our challenges, I wanted to share some real-time feedback for ridership as well, which we'll get into. I'm going to steal a little bit of JC's thunder, which he's aware of, but so I'm going to share on a couple of questions from the Attitude and Awareness Survey too. But there'll be more shared with you regarding the survey during his brief out a little later. And if we could proceed to the next slide. So this is what our writers are telling us right now. I've got a couple of slides related to, the response to the survey. And as you can see from the survey, improved security is listed as the top concern for our riders. And improving security is the number one reason that will cause people in our community to ride more often. That's what this question is really at. So just keep that in mind as we kind of proceed through. We can go on to the next slide. One more slide from the Attitude and Awareness Survey. This slide speaks to what may cause riders to ride the system less in the coming year. And rider behavior is a clear number one when presented this way. So we're seeing a clear indication from ridership that they would like to see improved security outcomes on the system. And it's up to us to sort of solve that issue. So I'm going to talk about that through the rest of the presentation in terms of some of the initiatives that we're working on. But before we do that, I'm going to spend a little time on where we're at with Reimagine. So if we could go to the next slide, please.
Oh, here.
I went ahead and put up.
There's all the goddamn places, man. They're all like the parasites. These are the so-called, the nonprofits they're all like funded by government and donations, but they're not real people. They're like organizations. They all have like six-figure executives with big staffs, etc.
Some of the participating members. We heard a little bit on Reimagine from Dr. Lewis earlier too. These are some of the important area organizations that contributed to our Blue Ribbon review process back in 2020. Which
it's the Blue Ribbon Committee.
Identified clear initiatives for us to sort of work towards to improve security and make the system safer for all of our riders. And I think this work, I mentioned this earlier, but this work has been very important for us because as we think about how we approach reimagining public safety following COVID, given some of the issues, we have a lot of real clear direction coming from some of these Reimagine initiatives. And I'll talk a little bit about that. We're going to give a more full update on Reimagine in the coming months. But I wanted to bring this up because
they've been reimagining for 2 years. Okay, this is another one that they just go on and on and on. Nobody would know that unless you're paying attention. Nobody's paying attention. This just goes on and on and on. It's like some bureaucratic thing they've got their teeth into, and they can drag it out for years, and they can all get their paychecks.
because some of the, you'll see some of the unique approaches that we've taken here at TriNet to deal with some of the issues that we're facing are very, very well informed by our reimagined policy. So I just, I've been really proud of this group. This is one of the best, one of the things we're most proud of.
Yeah, of course, they're doing a great job. Everybody's great. Yeah, rah, rah, rah. Look at us. We're wonderful. We're a goddamn example for the entire country, for the entire world.
Accomplishments of the Reimagined Public Safety Group here at TriNet and in our division. So I'll go to the next slide, please. So along those lines, our safety response.
There they are, Rippy. The safety response team. 2016 members. Diversity.
Response team, which was mentioned earlier this morning. I think by Lee Helfand with Opal, who we've actually met with and talked with about this team. This is a team that is an unarmed team. They're a team that actually is meant to really kind of broach some of the issues that we've been seeing out there and connect with some of the most vulnerable parts of our ridership. It establishes presence on the system while assisting employees and riders. And the SRT discourage inappropriate behavior, conduct social service outreach, provide referrals to health, housing, and addiction resources, offering conflict resolution, and performing first aid. I think you've heard me talk about our safety response team earlier, but back in September, we instituted this. So we're almost about a year into this. We've received amazing feedback on this team. This team is really connecting with folks out there in the community, and they're doing just an extraordinary job. If you are out riding on the system and you run into an SRT member, feel free to, I'd encourage you to just check in with them and ask them about the work and the opportunities they've seen. We've gotten lots of really good pieces of feedback, which I've forwarded along.
I would like a report on the activities of the safety response team. They must keep a daily log, right? I want to see it. I mean, if I were more involved with all this, I'd be getting public records requests constantly. But I'm not there, and I'm not in the state. I'm not the ombudsman. I'm just a citizen of observation. What the hell are they doing? Let's see the reports. Let's see their daily report, how many people they helped and what they did.
For community members watching them do important work out on our system. So we're proud of this team. This is new to TriNet. Currently, we have 26 of these team members, and we're actually increasing that number with Sam.
Yeah, now walk around in groups of 10. Instead of splitting into groups of 2, they're walking around in packs.
Approval to 48. So we're going to be really, really moving this team up. And we really feel like we've got a mandate.
You need a goddamn driver first. You know, it's ridiculous that they're doing this when they're not having adequate service.
To do it, and they just really appreciate Sam's support for the SRT team. We can go on to our next slide. One of the other things that came out of the reimagined process is really looking at our lighting out on the system. This is a partnership that we have done alongside Facilities, Karen Powell, and Security to really...
Okay. That's the same picture. This is not the same picture.
Upgrade our garages in particular. This is, but also various elements of the system, including, if you go to the Rose Quarter right now, it looks like a flight deck of an aircraft carrier at night underneath there, which is really nice. And we hear that from the community that it's really good to have very good lighting, sort of real security element to that. But you can see the before and after, before on left and right after, you can see that really adds a lot to the security element out there. And we're going to continue to do these upgrades. We've got a budget for it, and we're moving into more areas. So if you're out at night, go check out one of our facilities, Clackamas, Gateway, the Rose Quarter, areas where we've got lighting. You're going to notice some significant increases out there. So we'll move on to the next slide. So in speaking about the kind of tools that we have available to address public safety here. I wanted to kind of break out the entire public safety team and give you all a reference for what the teams do. We've talked a little bit about the safety response team. You'll see them underneath security. Transit Police Division reports directly to me as well. And that's a managed intergovernmental agreement with the MCSO in the lead. I want to say, if we go to the next slide, please. I want to spend a little time on the Transit Police Department. We, like everyone else in the community, has been really struggling with staffing. And so not only is that an issue for us here at TriMet and the Transit Police Department, but it's also an issue for all of the agencies, which presents some significant difficulties for us because we operate in all these communities. And so if they have down law enforcement, that does affect our ridership and TriMet employees. So we're really trying to partner with TPD and other agencies to grow our Transit Police Division, but also just anything we can do to help those communities too. And I'll talk a little bit about that.
Defund the police.
One of the things that's really encouraging recently, John Gardner and I and Marissa Clark, our senior community engagement person here for TriMet, went with Mike Reese to the Milwaukee City Council and presented our program, some of the things that we've been working on, our Reimagine process, and we received a unanimous vote from the Milwaukee City Council to re-enter the transit policing realm. So we'll be getting 2 additional officers, one in December and one in June, from the Milwaukee Police Department who will participate in transit police, and received some really great feedback from the City Council of the work we've been working on over the last couple of years, and the SRT and some of the other ways we're actually approaching public safety here. So some good news there. We are meeting with other agency command staff around the area to try to see if they will participate in the Transit Police Department. I've got several things on the calendar right now. So we're working towards building that group back up from that 27% of staffing right now. If you look to the next slide, and go to the next slide. Some other things that we've really engaged the Transit Police Department on as we've been dealing with the spike over the last couple of years, really, in employee-related incidents and assaults. We have really tried to get the Transit Police out to visit our bus garages and transit centers to connect with frontline employees. So they've been doing these mostly on the bus side, but it's also on the rail side, just actually meeting in the garage and talking with employees. That's received some really favorable feedback. And I just do say that it's really working in partnership with the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office has been a real benefit to our department. They're good partners. They really value our employees the way we do. And they're getting out there. And so we really appreciate that partnership. They also participated in a recent employee town hall and answered questions. And the other thing we're doing at the Public Safety Office is we're sharing an agency luncheon with all of the area agency command staff. So that's myself.
My God,
and
they're going to have lunch with each other. God, how lovely.
Greece. We invite the area chiefs to come in and talk about transit safety and public safety in general. And then obviously build up the transit police element to that and look for folks to participate. So, but that's a really good thing to be a part of. It connects the community and helps us kind of focus on transit-related security concerns with the TPD. So next slide, please. So I want to let you know a little bit about our customer safety supervisors. These are the folks.
They're going around busting those goddamn pesky poor people for not having their 250. Get the poors. Get them.
That work out on the system doing code enforcement.
Code enforcement, your system is a complete disaster, and they're out there enforcing fares. It's just such hypocrisy. I can't. It just shocks me how disconnected the TriMet executives are from reality.
An important element, another one of the tools here in the Safety Security Department to improve public safety. Different from SRT, SRT will not have a conversation about the codes. They won't issue a citation, etc. The customer safety supervisors do perform that function. They issue citations and exclusions for code violations, etc.
Just code violations. He's saying fares. Okay, oppression of poor people. Just say what it is. People that don't pay fares are people that don't have money. contrary to the right-wing, never-ending bullshit that we're subjected to day in and day out about how the poor people are responsible for their own problems.
This is a good team that we have out on the system with a lot of training to do this important work for our system.
Sure.
Sam has given me the authority to hire 19 additional to our existing 18 staff. We're already in that process, actually.
See, they have no bus drivers and train drivers, but they're doing this. Disconnected at the highest order.
These are representative jobs. They're good jobs, and it's amazing to see that there's a lot of people out there that are excited to do this work as we put this out. And so we're improving those numbers to 37, which is more than doubling that team in the next few months. So that should be.
They're doing like, well, we're going to spend 80 billion. How much money did they give to the IRS? It's going to be like 80,000 new people to watch your goddamn tax returns. Well, that's what this is. We're going to have double the amount of people to check, make sure you paid your $250.
Very well felt by our ridership, and I think will improve some of the safety security outcomes we've had out there. Next slide, please. So on the Allied Security side, so it's just
this used to be G4S. They changed the name. Wait a minute, look at this. We have increased the hourly wage of these professionals by $8. What?
It's important to understand what security does out on the system is patrol the system, discourage inappropriate behavior, and report serious concerns to police and emergency responders. They also assist riders and employees and encourage general safe behavior. You've probably seen some Allied Universal folks out there floating around on the system providing security presence. We continue to hear back from our ridership that it's really good for them to see presence on the system in all kinds, all sorts, whether that's even a facilities cleaner. But it's nice to see an employee out there. It establishes that sense of security that I think our ridership is looking for. We did increase the Allied Universal hourly rate. I received approval to increase that by $8, and we're trying to trickle that group up higher so we have more security professionals on the system. Currently, we have 76. We have the ability to move up to 180, and so we're moving up from a place of 60 about a month ago. So we're getting back those numbers. That this particular group, it's a struggle to just in the general difficulties we're all facing hiring folks. This is a difficult group to hire. So one of the reasons we increased that by $8 is to get more folks in those positions with good jobs. So next slide, please. A couple of the security elements that we've introduced and continue to sort of work on this last year. Crime prevention through environmental design. You've probably heard about that before, but SEPTED principles and policies are really important to us. And we're really trying to kind of make sure that everybody is well trained on this. One of the things that was mentioned earlier by Shirley, and I really appreciate Jeremy Rayfeld and maintenance working hard on the increased operator barrier. That's one of the initiatives safety's been working on as well. You could even talk about bus shelter design and a few other things. It's how do we
shelter design? How about you get glass that doesn't break?
We build for the future with kind of a more urban and more focus with a larger population where we have significant crime and security issues that maybe we didn't have in the past. So that new normal is going to be really influenced by SEPTED and just with a lot of community stakeholder feedback.
Crime prevention through environmental design, that's a bunch of baloney.
As we try to be safer out there. One of the other partnerships that continue to work with.
That's just like, that's a pork barrel. So they're saying we're going to rebuild things for crime prevention, but that's, it's a lie. It's not, there's no such thing as crime prevention by redesigning a building. Or redesigning a transit center. That doesn't prevent crime.
Multnomah County Behavioral Health to try to develop options for some of the issues that we see day in, day out related to behavioral health issues out on the system.
No kidding.
And we're excited to work with them and
You're
continue
excited
to partner with them.
Where are they?
We are, one of the things I want to make you aware of too, we are moving our East Precinct to Gateway. So we're actually going to have transit police located at Gateway.
It's about
in
time.
partnership with the Oregon
Should have
Clinic.
done that
We signed a
10 years
contract on
ago.
that earlier this month. So we'll have actual vehicles, transit police vehicles parked out there, and transit staff available at Gateway. That's really been important to a lot of our folks out there. The Oregon Clinic's really supportive of this. Has been a great partner to try to bring a kind of safer environment to Gateway. We have security staff at Gateway quite often if you go through there, but the transit police have a different focus and a different ability out there, and it's really important to get them on site. So we're excited to do that. And I just mentioned that we continue to upgrade our CCTV enhancements. We have over 8,000 cameras now out on the system. And not only does that help us solve crime and do investigations at TriMet, but it's also helping our local area peers as we partner with other agencies.
Yeah, the goddamn police state surveillance network. That's what it is.
To help them, investigate crime as well. So we're a good partner in that effort.
Yeah.
Next slide,
Boy, this
please.
goes on forever.
So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about employee incidents and employee assaults, and just kind of start with,
Oh, it's interesting.
every assault that is.
This is an interesting graph right here. Let me grab a picture of that. I want to grab that for the. I'm going to make a tweet for that. Just a second here. Just have to get my camera. Okay. Come on. What's the matter with this fucking thing? Did it work? All right.
Felt by on our system, we feel deeply in the security department. This is the worst outcome that we could have when we have an assault or an incident out there. We take a really holistic approach to capturing as much data on these types of incidents as we can, so that we can kind of come up with leading indicators and do some predictive modeling in terms of where we might have worse situations. You can see by this slide, the projected number is shaded there. So we're
all right.
kind of.
Let me look at this. So these are 2020, 2021, and 2022, and then they project. So there's 467 incidents in 2021 of verbal harassment, threats, harassment. 220 of physical assault, including objects. 65 assault threat with a weapon, 67 spitting, items thrown, indecent exposure. There's been 3 assaults while in motion.
On a path to be very similar in terms of the actual definition of a physical assault. We capture a lot, which is that second column there. We capture a lot of data beyond just physical assaults, again, because we really want to try to understand how best to make our operators' experience better out there. This is a really, really difficult space for us. And again, it represents a really, really, just heartfelt loss when we have one of these situations where somebody has to go through this. We have some good support systems on the back end, but we want to try to make sure it doesn't occur at all. So
yeah, well, see, this is a very complex topic that nobody talks about except for me, and how these things are happening now. They'll have you believe that every one of these incidents is a rider attacking a driver without provocation. Well, those of us that are familiar with the material know that some of this stuff is actually started by the actual drivers. All right, this is the problem here. You have drivers that are like trying to pretend they're like cops. They're petty tyrants. They're enforcing stupid rules. They're trying to make people do things that are just ridiculous. They're denying rides. They're denying dozens of rides every day. So they're creating an animosity in the public every time you deny somebody a ride. you now have created somebody who's going to hate you and other bus drivers. So this is a very complex issue, and nobody is discussing the realities of it. They're saying all of these incidents is all because of bad behavior by the public. Well, I wish that were true, but I know that it's not. And I know that's very controversial for me to say that, and I lose a lot of friends for that. But I know the truth. I know the truth. I was in the business myself, and it's gotten worse as time has gone on.
Focused on this, things like the operator barriers, our increased presence on the system, those are the types of pieces that are really going to help us manage.
Yeah, if you have good barriers, that will really stop this. Why didn't you buy good barriers to begin with? Who knows? Cheapskates probably. But just fix them and just fix them. Get the barriers that you can't get around, and that will solve a lot of the problems.
This in the future, and so I think we're headed in the right direction. If we go to the next slide, this is the same data but per 1 million rides. So we're kind of tracking as our ridership returns, what this might look like per 1 million rides. And what I think you're starting to see there is a more positive trend as we return our regular ridership.
And some of that, what he's doing is distorting the figures here. This is a attempt to distort, make it look better than it actually is.
That is just, again, increased presence, increased folks getting back on the system. But this, alongside things like increasing the amount of personnel we have on the system and establishing that safety security presence, we think we're headed in a good direction into this next year for employee incidents. Next slide, please. I want to give you a quick update also on houseless encampment. We at TriNet, just like the region around us, is sort of struggling in this area in terms of how best to approach houseless encampment. We have some unique challenges in the security department and at TriNet, because not only does this present issues and difficulties, it can actually be quite unsafe when a houseless encampment is very close to our right-of-way, to bus locations, etc. So we work with the city of Portland and others to really kind of approach this compassionately, but we try to keep people safe by moving them out of areas where it's not safe to be encamped near the system. So you'll see that the number of complaints, that is the first quarter data on the blue column there in 2022. The number of complaints has really, really gone up. So if you took that blue column on the right and times it by 4, you can imagine how big that will be. That's a trend that we're seeing more often. I think as people return to different locations and work, etc., people are starting to file more complaints with the city and with TriNet and putting different things on our radar, which we really encourage because we really want to know where these issues are. We are going to continue to work on this. We have a dedicated staff that actually work in coordination with Portland Street Response, and PMI, and others around the city to sort of address these issues as they arise. All right, next.
And that's a civilization failure. That's a society which has printed trillions of dollars and given them to themselves and left all these people in tents. So we have a broken society has created this. You're going to see on Twitter and on the media endless demonizing of the poor, and half the country buys it, or maybe even more than half the country thinks they're bad because they're in a tent. They have no sympathy or empathy whatsoever for people, and this is why we are fucked as a society right now, because we are not sympathetic with each other here. We've the societal bonds that make you one people have broken apart. We have the red, we have the blue, we have the homeless. We've broken into multiple frames of mind, and they're all against each other. And so this is why we're going to be down the toilet as a society, probably sooner than later.
Slide, please.
Oh, look, establishment of Executive Security Committee. The development of a rapid, where's that? Increased access controls.
So we had a lot to cover this morning. Appreciate you being here with me. I want to give you an update that we will have a part 2 to this that's going to talk a little bit about the establishment of executive security committees, and that's really involving upper leadership on specific
Upper
issues
leadership,
that we've
the
identified.
upper leadership will get a committee, and we will talk about these things, and we'll talk about them some more, and then we'll keep talking about them, and 5 years will go by, and we'll still be talking about them.
I really appreciate Bonnie and Sam's leadership.
Yeah, they're wonderful. They're
establishing those
great
committees.
leaders. We love you. You're great. He's great. We're all great. We all do a great job. Nobody's failing. Transit system is fantastic.
Help us kind of work through these at an executive level.
It's executive
as
level.
we kind of respond to a
We're
very
going to work through this at an executive level.
challenging situation. One of the things that we've grown recently, I'll give you a high-level update. It's in its infancy, but we've developed
He's going to give you a high-level update.
a rapid response center to deal with security issues as well as.
Well, I don't know. This sounds good though. Whatever it is, that would be a good thing if they actually had a team that rapidly responded to incidents.
Issues related to cleanliness and biohazard removal, etc., so that we're kind of getting back out there accountably and very as fast as we possibly can to address some of these issues when they're identified by either our employees or by members of the public. And then lastly, we're going to be talking more about increased access controls at our facilities to make sure our riders are actually the people that are accessing some of our centers. And this could be things like elevators as well as garages. So we're looking into some of those things. We're excited to share more on that coming up. And with that, I appreciate your time.
I've just been informed that there are no more white shirts. The white shirts now have baby blue shirts. I was unaware of that. Must be stylish, They want to keep their style. They're always trying to rebrand themselves, their public relations aspect.
And I wanted to open this up for questions from the group.
All right. This has been the longest thing I've lived. But this was an interesting presentation. I enjoyed watching this. Usually I'm bored out of my mind. But this was an interesting watch. Come on.
Let's see here. There we go.
Simmons, you're muted.
Old lady.
No, I should not do that. Director Way, you have the floor.
Thank you, Andrew. Thank you so much for this presentation and update.
Should I cue up the? I better hold on. Let me cue up the 2468. Who do we appreciate? Because I'm sure we're gonna get this here. So let's cue it up. Where is it?
Really, there has been a lot of work that you and your whole entire department has done to, really look at organizationally, how are we going to, provide more safety, right? And also take the leadership of the Reimagined Safety Committee. So thank you. That is a lot of work, and I'm looking at the organizational chart. I mean that's just a lot of work just to make sure that.
Yeah, just looking at all the bureaucrats that are getting paid for doing who knows what. It's not translating anything on the ground. Who knows what those people are doing?
Have the right staff and the right personnel to meet our agency's goals. I do have a couple of questions and comments. So my first question was around the ASP plan update. I believe that's the security plan that we have. So is it too late for 2022 for that update to receive additional comment, or are you saying we have 2023 to look forward to?
No, it's not too late. Great question. The key piece is we need to get it down to ODOT for them to sort of provide their review and comment. But there'll be an opportunity for us to review. The key piece is we would have to just make sure that ODOT was approval or had approval of those edits. But we can work through that.
Okay, and I think I remembered you saying December was when you were going to send us. Okay. I just want to make sure. Okay, great. And then I have some questions around some of the teams that you're assembling. So I am just curious, particularly the safety response team, if you have any information on languages that those members speak, because we know,
Yeah, you should definitely have Spanish. We know that.
right, that there are multiple languages that are being spoken in our metro area. And I just do believe that we need to have as many people who are bilingual,
Good idea.
multilingual, serving our diverse community. So
Of course,
that
they're not going to work for peanuts, you know. If you're going to have multiple language skills, you don't need to work for some junky ass low-paying transit district.
that language barrier doesn't become an issue.
Absolutely. Great question. We do have that data. I'll share it with you, Director Way, and the rest of the board. We've had some people leave the team, some new people, but we have people of, we say very diverse backgrounds. People with lived experience. We have people with master's degrees. We have people that speak multiple languages. And we've tried to establish this group that's representative of the community they serve. And so we'll get that information to you. And as we build that team out, that's certainly something we're looking for, is more ability to connect with our community. So it's a great point. And I'll get you the current data, and we'll talk more about it as we ask that.
Thank you. That would be awesome.
That'd be awesome.
And I think just related to that, I was going to also ask about just, shift times, right, for these workers, because certain neighborhoods, certain communities, I'm thinking some of the low income, Asian, Chinese residents in particular in the J district, they go to a lot of senior events early in the mornings.
Yes.
Not so much in the later evenings. And so.
How does she know? Well, obviously, yeah, that's true. She's right.
That's just one example, right, of having people who speak different languages, who are on our system, who are providing support, extra security to particular communities. So are we aware of that? Are we keeping track of right? Like we might want to focus on additional personnel at this hour to this hour, because we know that community is going to be out there more, for example.
Absolutely. And the manager of this program, Tom Hunt, and the assistant manager, Lee Hunter, meet with different area groups to sort of establish kind of the best practices of an SRT. This has been somewhat innovative in the sense that we just started this in September, but they're looped in with lots of various organizations, because part of that is we want to make sure we're connecting people to area resource. Obviously,
Where's that happening?
Staff, and we talk about going.
What area? What fucking area resource? What? Show us.
Yeah, that's going to be a significant add, and we can start serving more hours, have more presence the right way, and I think I'll check in with you, Director Way, to make sure that they are synced in with some of the groups that you just mentioned, because that'd be fantastic if we could go out and meet with them and kind of understand the needs. That's exactly what they want to do with this team, and we've got really good leadership in that group. So we'll check back in on that too.
Thank you. I just want to comment on that particular piece, because
I'll link this. He just went over this. Oh, yeah. I'll link this in the video description. It's 26 pages. Yeah, he just went through that. I didn't have this open. I should have.
And I don't know if all board members are aware of this, but ever since the beginning of the pandemic, there has been
the scamdemic. I'd like to correct that, because it was a scam.
An increase in particularly Asian hate crime.
Yes, that's true too.
Biases, incidences, just, verbal assault, physical assault against people who, look Asian or Pacific Islander. And it is totally unacceptable to, even tolerate that. So, and unfortunately, what we're seeing nationwide is, elders are being targeted, right, who just may be scared to frankly go to law enforcement and report that as well. So I just want to make that strong statement that I think And a lot of those things are happening in public places and on public transit. I don't know what those numbers look like for TriMet, and hopefully it's not that many, but I just want to make that comment because it's just such a real problem. And any type of racism, harassment for any community should not be tolerated. But I just know amongst the Asian and Asian immigrant community, it's just been ongoing. It's been so persistent. So please, let's do all that we can to also speak out against that, address that. And that's why in particular, I was hoping, Andrew, you mentioned that, thank you, of working closer with those community-based organizations that do serve those communities, because, I feel like they would be the best ones to go to, to get additional feedback and information on how we can really, provide safety to some of our culturally specific communities. And then I have one other thing, and then I'll pass it around to other board members. I can also circle back with some of the questions, but I heard you mention a lot of just coordination, a lot of work with Multnomah County, which is great. It just seems like they have been such a solid partner with us in providing additional wraparound services and connection to resources. But I haven't much heard about Clackamas County and what they're doing. I represent Clackamas County, which is a huge region, and so not to say, just to say, I'd love to get more information on what other counties are doing. So again, I don't know if there's more data or just more information that you want to provide, but I just want to point that out. And then last but not least, I would like to see more data and just some more numbers on the types of incident responses that are the transit police in particular, and all of our different partners that we work with. Just what are the situations that they're responding to? I'd love to see that breaking.
Yes, okay, that's what I said. That's what I was saying. Let's see the reports of the safety and security team. Let's see that. They must be keeping daily logs. I want to see it. Maybe we should put in a public records request.
More clearly, because I think when you were saying, like, we're partnering with transit police, we're investigating different situations. I would like to know what those are, and I think taxpayers would also like to know, okay, what are the types of situations?
All right, this has gone on too long. This has all gone on an hour here, so this is long enough. I'll come back to this in another episode. Over and out.